Hi, everybody. I'm Rafaela Nehausen, Executive Director of Doc NYC, and it is my absolute pleasure to be moderating a conversation with the filmmaker behind Love and Stuff, Judith Helfand. Welcome to our online world, Judith.
I'm so happy to be with you. I'm also happy to be out of my kitchen, which is usually where I do my online world. I'm in an empty office with no staff at Columbia University's School of Journalism, where I'm teaching for the year.
Well, I have to say it's quite a contrast after having just rewatched your film with so much stuff to see you against a more empty background. There's something almost poetic, although I see the vote there, so that's good.
There is my vote mask.
So, I just want to start off by saying thank you for making such a powerful film, Judith, one that touches on so many universal themes that I know everyone can relate to, from aging to loving to losing to gaining to time to stuff. I mean, my eyes were wet, I think, through so much of the film. There were just so many points that I related to so strongly. And I just wanted to start out with asking you, I mean, you've spent your whole life making so many poignant personal films. At what point did you know you were making this film?
Well, I just want to say, I make a point of making poignant films, but hopefully with very big universal messages. And most of them, have been kind of like tipped off by a moment in time, when I realized that what's happening to me and my very unique position and where I sit and where I am and the access that I have or don't have, and the community that I'm a part of, is jettisoning me to say, okay, the way that I'm going to get through this crisis of cancer, or the crisis of realizing that my father's decision to put vinyl siding on the outside of our house is somebody else's sort of death sentence over the long term, or in this case, so many years later, and kind of in echo and in response to those two movies, A Healthy Baby Girl and Blue Vinyl, I think when I asked my mother, how do you live without your mother? And I couldn't ask her. Like, there was the point that I couldn't ask her, and that she had asked me for 2.5 years, she had asked me, please start thinking about how to live without your mother, because I know that you will soon, and I'm giving you an opportunity to do that with me, actually, and have fun and go through all this stuff with me. And in the process, we'll figure it out and you'll be more prepared. That's really what she was saying. And I couldn't take her up on it. And then I'm there, and she's like so vulnerable, and she's so sick, and I know she's at the end of her life. And and I haven't picked up a camera in a very, 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 very long time at that point. And I'd really honored her, like, I've been in enough of your movies, enough, like, leave me alone already, no more movies. And I knew, like, deep down, like, she didn't want me documenting her illness, and I didn't. But it's one thing to document an illness. It's another thing to realize that what you're documenting is living a good death. And if I had said, you know what, okay, I'll come home and go through the stuff with you, and in the process, you're going to teach me how to live a good death, she would have said yes, right? So, okay, so there I am, and I know it's like we're down to weeks now, and I have to, like, I haven't been able to say. And there were a couple of moments when the hospice nurse had said, you could tell her things, and I there was often I couldn't, like, have those conversations. You've been such a good mom, whatever. But it's like all of a sudden I felt myself asking that question, and I think as I asked that question, and as I saw my mother think about how she was going to answer me, I thought, okay, like I had already, I mean, by that point, I was documenting hospice, and I was documenting the living the good death a little bit. And I had already, we were calling everyone and encouraging them, come now. I was making very dark jokes, what my mother thought were really funny. Like, Mom, I actually told them, like, come now, coma later. And she was like, you didn't. I was like, I did. Don't you think it's a much better option? She's like, yeah, it is a much better option. I would like to see them, So, like, I had started to do all that. And so we were utilizing, like, all the tropes that always got us through the hardest parts of our life together, that got us through cancer, that got us through stuff. So, but I think when I asked you that question, it's like, I really knew. I've entered that place. I am in that place that everybody, that thousands of people have gone to, and thousands and millions and millions of people have gone here and have done this, and they didn't know how to do it, but they had to, and they found the strength, and then they found the will, and then they figured out that they would be able to talk to their parents. They would find ways to talk to their parents when they were gone, and they would find ways to keep their parents' voices alive and well, despite being dead, in very, very profound ways. And maybe it would be in stuff, and maybe it would be in something else, and maybe it would be in the moon and the stars, and in certain kinds of music, or certain times a day, or in an egg cup, which is where my mother mostly is these days. So I think that's one.
Well, it's funny. I loved the scene with your brothers as you were trying to pack up the house. And one of your brothers literally just took the shell. And for him, like, that was enough. And I thought even just that contrast between three siblings and how they are already anticipating, like, what they want to keep of their childhood, of their home, of their memory, and how it's represented in the physical. I thought that was incredible, just seeing the difference between the three of you.
Well, my brothers and I happen to be very, the age difference is pretty great for us. So, one brother's 11 years older than me, and the other brother is 7 years older than me. And, we haven't lived together since my brother went to college and I was 6. As I explained to my 6-year-old the other day, she was like, oh, were you sad? And I was like, I was devastated. Honestly, I was. And, but then when my mom came home, when I came home and moved in with her, and my brother finally came home for a while. He lives on the other side of the country. My other brother lives 10 minutes from her. It's like, holy crap. It's like, if you want to, like, re-meet your brothers and your siblings, like, do hospice together, go through stuff together. It's like, it's like, if you really want to understand, like, who they are and how you operate differently, it's like, go through a middle-class estate together. Go through this stuff in a month together. Make the decision of how she's going to die together. That's how you meet your siblings. And you'd say to your, like, Ma, how did he get like this? And she'd say, isn't he amazing? I said, he is amazing, and we're disagreeing. She'd say,
and can you talk a little bit, one of the things you do so well, and I can't even imagine how it works, is navigating being a director, but also being a subject. And maybe that's where your film team comes into play, because I can imagine there's moments where you're probably like, I don't know. And they're like, no, trust us, Judith, for the film, like, you need to do this. You need to turn the camera on. Like, how did that whole piece work?
Well, I just want to say, well, first of all, editor. And the sooner you bring, your editors into the process, the better. And so, I literally just got off. I'm doing a pitch training for Double Exposure next week, and I just got off with a filmmaker. And I said to her, the best part of a pitch is learning about your movie. That's the win, is you get to learn more about your movie. And so the iterative process of working on a project, making that first trailer, finding the cinematic language for your movie, understanding it. On one part, that comes from, like, calling in one of your best friends who's an extraordinary cinematographer and filmmaker, Dan Gold, and say, you got to shoot this stuff with me, right? So, that's the first part of like kind of understanding how is this going to work. The second part is then editing it. And so, yes, it's like surrounding yourself with creative people who are as interested in your vision and helping you find it as they are by helping you hone it and making it authentic and pushing back and trying to always understand what is that animating question that is pushing through this project. And in this case, it was the very thing like you that I knew this is what's going to make me make this movie. Mom, how do you live without your mother? Became the, okay, how do you live without your mother? How do you become a mother when you don't have your mother, right? Where is your mother? Is she in this stuff? Can you let go? If you let go of this stuff, is she not around? What is the meaning of this stuff now? Is she in it? Or is she telling you to let go? Ultimately, the secret to this movie really was the iterative process and letting really, really smart, creative people, producers, editors, cinematographers, join me in the process.
Yeah, I have to say, it almost has like this archaeological excavational dig as you go through time. And I loved how it's kind of time is very circular and those moments. And at one moment, it's your mother in the closet, and then it's you in the closet. And I think it really speaks to this kind of generational moment and the cycles of life. And you started off as a daughter and then you were a mother, but it just had this very kind of meta feeling to how it was all put together.
Well, that is completely, that way of finding it. I mean, I knew that we had this huge collection of material that we had shot over a 25-year period of time. I mean, like starting in 1990 and really going all the way through my mom's death in 2013. But culling through it, understanding it, and then being able to find the language for it. I mean, that's completely the editors. And the first person to kind of find that cinematic language was David Cohen. And then the second person to kind of like really pull it through. And then we became an amazing collaborative process was Marina Katz. And the combination of being able to kind of use that footage as a portal to go in this very porous way between the past and the present, and to kind of like use stuff as a way to get through, and like to see the stuff being used 30 years earlier and then to see the stuff being used now, and to sort of that pushing us through and, going through a door, then when I first moved into the apartment and going through a door now, as I'm repainting it with my daughter, that was all them.
Has Theo seen the film?
She's seen every iteration of this movie. I mean, she literally came home to a house where we were editing the op doc. And she's seen every iteration. And, I think it's confusing sometimes, but like this is how she knows her grandparents. And this is how she understands stuff. And this is how she understands things. And, this stuff has been integrated in our house. I mean, that was sort of like a goal. No, I don't want to get rid of it. I want to integrate it so we use it. And we do use it, a lot of it. And during the pandemic, it's actually become really oddly essential in certain ways, things I would never imagine. She did this amazing like pandemic online, art school through the School of Visual Arts for a while when we were first in lockdown, and it was a hard moment. And they asked for a straight edge, and we looked at each other at the same time, and she said, and she ran into the kitchen, and she was like jumping up and down. And I have, this like all of these hallowed objects in this hallowed place. And I got it. And she opens up this ivory straight edge of my dad's. And then she uses it. She says, this is my grandpa's. His name was Theodore. My name is Theodora. I'm named after him. I'm using it. She uses it. And then she looks at me and she goes, oh. I said, what's wrong? She said, I got green Sharpie on the ivory. I said, it's great. He'd love it. Grandpa's so happy you're using this. Your Z would be so proud of you. Look how straight your edges. He loves straight edges. So, you know, I used to say like, oh God, I need my mother, and I do. But if my mother was alive, she'd say, as I used to say, I mean, but at the same time, it's like, I'm realistic. Thank God she's dead already. I mean, I need her very much, but thank God she's dead already, because A, we wouldn't be able to see her. And how would I navigate between taking care of her and taking care of Theo? And the pain of her watching me have the stress of taking care of Theo during a pandemic would be very hard, of course. And she'd still be in chemo because she would have been in lifelong chemo. So she's much better off dead than alive, and she's incredibly useful. So, you know, like during the pandemic, pouring syrup over pancakes has become a big problem. And so, you know, it's like, no, I need more, no, I need more, no. And my mother, through Denise, who works with us now every day and helps me with the online learning, and thank God she's in her life, she said, of course she wants to pour in her own. She needs her independence. And she wants a lot, but she can't have a lot. But if you pour it into something and then she pours that, then she's gonna get what she needs. So stop fighting. I was like, you're right. And then like, my mother's egg cup, it's the perfect amount. So, you know, we pour the syrup in the egg cup, and then my mother talks to me. She says, you're being a very good mother. You're giving her independence. You're not fighting. Shalom bayit. Use the egg cup. So the egg cup is like the spirit of independence in a way. And so she talks to me through the stuff all the time. And it's become a real blessing at this moment of disconnection and connection.
Well, Judith, I think we're just about out of time, but I wanted to say there is a moment in the film, I forget the exact line. I think somebody asks, like, or you're asking, reflect, like, where does the Judaica go? Because you don't know what to do with all the Judaica. And I just want to thank you, because your film is one of the places it goes. And I think for, you know, as speaking myself as the Jewish granddaughter who's inherited the meat grinder and all of those objects that I lovingly watched in your film, you did a really big service and tribute to all of us by making that film, by making all of your films. And we're so happy you could be with us. Sorry it's online this year, it's a pandemic, but we're really proud to have your film as part of the festival and to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you. And I just want all your viewers to know that I'm teaching. We're utilizing this movie during the pandemic in a unique way, and we're doing these workshops called Love, Stuff, and Zoom, and are trying to support, oh, and you participated in one.
I did.
And we're trying to really, you know, like, so we're bringing it to festivals when and where we can. We're bringing it different communities, and really trying to help people utilize the space and the Zoom and the transom and the disconnection to be connection, and to use the meat grinder to get to the do not resuscitate order. So
I participated with my mom nonetheless. So for all the viewers out there, you should look it up. Judith, is it on your website? Where would people?
It will be, yeah.
It will be. So Love and Stuff, look it up. And we look forward to more conversation. Mwah, mwah.
I love you. Bye.
Bye.